All right, we're taking a deep dive into the future of the car, and I mean the real future. By 2035, the whole idea of what a car is will be almost unrecognizable. And no, we're not talking about flying cars. We're talking about something way more profound, a full-on software revolution on wheels.
So let's just start with this one question. Think about any car you've ever owned. You know how it is, right? Its best day is the day you drive it off the lot. But what if that just wasn't true anymore? What if, like your phone, your car just kept getting better, downloading updates that unlocked new features, boosted its performance, and actually made it more valuable over time?
Well, that idea, that's the key to this whole thing. It's called the software-defined vehicle, or SDV for short. Now, an SDV isn't just a car with a big touchscreen. It's a vehicle where the software is in charge of pretty much everything: the engine, the battery, the suspension, you name it. And the best part? It can all be upgraded remotely. It's a total shift from having a bunch of separate little computers to having one powerful central brain. And this right here just nails the whole shift. Right now, a car's value is all about the hardware, the engine, the steel, the physical stuff. But by 2035, that script is going to be completely flipped. The real value, the thing that makes a car special, will be its software. It's literally going from being a mechanical machine to being a powerful computer on wheels.
And look, it's not just us saying this. The people running these car companies, they're all in. A huge survey by IBM found that 3/4, 75% of auto execs believe the software experience is going to be the absolute core of their brand's value by 2035. They are betting the farm on this future.
So what's causing this earthquake of a shift? It's not just one thing. It's more like a perfect storm, a powerful convergence of forces that are completely remaking the road ahead. Let's break down what's really driving this change. You can really boil it down to four key forces all hitting at once. You've got incredible breakthroughs in technology, like with EVs and AI. Then you have governments putting their foot down with super aggressive emission targets. The market itself is changing, chasing new ways to make money. And finally, there's you, the consumer, who now expects a digital, sustainable, and way more flexible experience. And what's really lighting a fire under the industry is policy. I mean, look at this. Major markets, the EU, California, Canada, the UK, they've all basically set 2035 as the deadline, the end of the road for selling new gas-powered cars. This isn't a friendly suggestion. It's a mandate. It's forcing the entire industry to transform, and fast. So how is the industry responding? Well, they're putting their money where their mouth is. Right now, about a fifth of R&D spending goes to software. By 2035, that's projected to jump to almost 60%. That is a massive, seismic pivot in where they're investing their money. And why make such a huge pivot? Simple. That's where the money is going to be. XX expect that revenue from digital stuff, think subscriptions, software upgrades, in-car services, is going to rocket from just 15% today to over half of all their income by 2035. The entire business model is being rewritten. Okay, enough about the industry, right? What does all this tech and business talk actually mean for you? Forget just driving from point A to point B. We're talking about a totally new relationship with getting around, where the car is less of a product you own and way more of a service you use.
First things first, by 2035, electric is just going to be the default. We're looking at projections that say around 60% of all new cars sold worldwide will be electric. And yeah, hybrids will still be important in some places, but in the big global markets, the era of the purely gas-powered car, at least for new sales, is pretty much history. Now, as cars get better at handling the driving themselves, the inside of the car is going to totally transform. It stops being just a cockpit and becomes what people are calling a third living space, right after your home and your office. Imagine a personalized, connected bubble for working, watching a movie, or just chilling out.
So how does this new business model actually work? It's basically an app store, but for your car. Let's say you're going on a road trip and want a bit more horsepower. You can just subscribe to a performance boost for the week. Or maybe it's winter and you want heated seats for just a month. You just tap a button and activate it. The hardware is already built in. You're just paying to turn on the software when you need it. And here's a wild thought. For a lot of us, especially if you live in a city, you might not even own a car at all. We're seeing the rise of what's called mobility as a service, or MaaS. The idea is you just subscribe to one service that bundles everything: ride-hailing, car sharing, maybe even public transit, all in one app. Total freedom. Okay, but let's be real. This transition is not going to be a walk in the park, not by a long shot. For an industry that spent 100 years perfecting mechanical engineering, this is a frantic, high stakes race to completely reinvent itself. So let's look at the huge challenges ahead for everyone involved.
Let's break down the strategic minefield. For the big car makers, the OEMs, their biggest challenge is culture. They're wired for mechanics, not code. They have to become software companies, and they have to do it while trying to lock down a steady supply of batteries. Then you've got their tier one suppliers. Their entire business, making engines and transmissions, is facing obsolescence. They've got to pivot hard into things like battery tech and software just to survive. And this trickles down to the thousands of smaller businesses, the MSMEs, that make all the little specialized parts for those components. For them, this is truly an existential threat. They have to find a new place in this EV world, or they could just vanish. And finally, you have the policymakers, who have to walk this tightrope between pushing for green goals and making sure people can still afford to get around. That means huge investments in charging grids and smart, predictable incentives. All of this, it sets up this massive, trillion-dollar question. Who actually wins this race? Do the old guards, the legacy giants, successfully pull off this transformation? Do the big tech companies finally jump in and dominate? Or will it be the new challengers, the companies that were born electric, who end up defining the future? The stakes could not be higher.
All right, so let's bring this all home. After all that, what's the bottom line here? What does the road ahead really truly look like? Look, if you forget everything else, just remember these three things. Number one, the car is a computer now. Its value is in the code, not the horsepower. Number two, electrification is the new normal, period. It's being driven by policy around the world. And number three, the business model is flipping from one-time sales to a future of ongoing services and subscriptions. And that brings us to the final question, and this one is really for you to think about. In this completely new world of 2035, how are you going to get around? Will you still own a car, one that's constantly updating and evolving? Will you subscribe to a mobility service that just takes care of everything? Or will it be something else, something we haven't even imagined yet? The road ahead is being built as we speak. For over 100 years, the car business was pretty simple, right? You build a car, you sell it, you move on to the next one. Well, that entire playbook is being thrown out the window. We're on the verge of a new automotive gold rush, a massive transformation that's going to create fortunes for anyone who knows where to look. And this isn't just about switching to electric. No, this is a complete reinvention of how we get around and, more importantly, how money is actually made from it. So, what's the headline here? Look at today. Almost all the money comes from that one-time sale of the car itself. It's a hardware game. But fast forward to 2035, and the whole script gets flipped. The real money, the lion's share, is going to come from recurring revenue. Things like software subscriptions and services you buy throughout the car's life. We're literally moving from selling a product to selling a platform. And that is the biggest financial shakeup this industry has ever seen. But, this isn't just about spreadsheets and projections. It's a huge human challenge. This quote from an industry exec just nails it. You've got these giant companies, sometimes with 500,000 people, who have spent a century perfecting mechanical engineering. You can't just flip a switch and tell them to start thinking like a scrappy software startup. That cultural shift takes a long time. And that gap, that friction in the system, that's exactly where the new opportunities are born. And that brings us to what we're calling the Great Automotive Reset. The old way of doing business is frankly becoming obsolete. But here's the thing, whenever there's this much disruption, it isn't just a threat. It's the single greatest opportunity for innovation and new business that the industry has seen in 100 years. So let's break down the three biggest battlegrounds where all this new value is being created. First up, the car as a computer. Forget horsepower and engine displacement. The most important feature of a modern car is its processing power. The new engine of value isn't a V8 under the hood, it's the millions of lines of code running through the vehicle's central computer. And this is all built on the concept of the software-defined vehicle, or SDV. So what does that actually mean in plain English? It means a car is no longer a static thing that just gets older and worse over time. Instead, it's an evolving digital platform, kind of like your phone, that can get new features, become faster, and get smarter through simple over-the-air software updates. And here's why this matters so much. Get this. Auto executives are predicting that by 2035, over half, a full 51% of their revenue, will come from these digital and software sources. That is a massive leap from just 15% today. So yeah, mastering software isn't just some side hustle anymore, it's the absolute core of the business.
So what do these new revenue streams actually look like in the real world? Well, imagine this. You could pay a small monthly fee to unlock extra horsepower for a weekend road trip, or you could subscribe to a full self-driving feature just for your long commute. The car essentially becomes an app store on wheels. And for smaller businesses and startups, this is a goldmine. You could develop niche apps, create specialized remote diagnostic tools. The possibilities are huge. Okay, onto our second major battleground. The battery becomes a business. It's not just the software that's being totally reinvented. The main piece of hardware in an EV is creating a brand new circular economy built all around energy.
And the scale of this is just mind-boggling. By 2035, the number of EVs on the road is expected to multiply by 15 times. Think about that. That's not just a bunch of cars. That's a massive mobile energy grid made of millions of batteries that all need to be managed, serviced, and eventually repurposed. This whole life cycle creates a value chain where every single step is a potential business. Now, sure, the huge corporations are going to dominate the early stages like manufacturing, but look at the end of the line. Second life storage and end of life recycling. Using old car batteries to power a home or a business, that's a huge opportunity. These areas are wide open for smaller, nimble companies that can specialize in things like battery health diagnostics, logistics, or refurbishment. There's a fortune to be made giving these batteries a second act. And that brings us to our third, and maybe the most radical shift of all, selling mobility, not metal. This is the big idea, that in the future, many of us won't own a car at all. Instead, we'll just buy access to transportation whenever we need it, like a subscription service. And the size of this market is almost hard to wrap your head around. By 2035, mobility as a service is projected to be a nearly $3 trillion industry. That's trillion with a T. This isn't some niche market we're talking about. It's a fundamental reordering of our entire transportation economy. So where's all that cash going? Well, the two biggest chunks of the pie are personal mobility, that's stuff like car sharing and subscription services, and of course the ride hailing we're all familiar with. What this tells us is that people still crave the freedom and convenience of a personal vehicle. They just don't want the hassle and the huge cost of actually owning one. Okay, so we've seen these three massive waves of change coming: software, batteries, and services. The big question is, so what? What do you actually do about it? In this last section, we're going to lay out your roadmap to 2035 with some real, actionable playbooks for everyone, no matter how big or small. All right, for the big car companies, the OEMs, the name of the game is control and flexibility. First, they have to win the software war by owning the car's core operating system. Second, they need to lock down their battery supply chain, and that means everything from mining partnerships to building their own recycling plants. And finally, they have to build their cars on flexible modular platforms so they can adapt quickly.
Now, what about the big Tier 1 suppliers? For them, the opportunity is all about specialization. They can pour R&D into the next big thing, like solid-state batteries. They can build out the services that will support that whole second life battery market. And here's a really interesting one. New rules are coming that will regulate the tiny particles that come from brakes and tires, even on EVs. That is a brand new, multi-billion-dollar problem that suppliers are perfectly positioned to solve. And finally, for the small and medium-sized businesses, for the startups out there, the key is to be fast, smart, and find your niche. Look, you don't have to build an entire car. You could develop a must-have in-car app that handles parking and toll payments seamlessly. You could become the local go-to expert for setting up vehicle-to-grid systems that let a EV power a house. You could offer specialized maintenance for commercial EV fleets. Or you could tackle the huge growing need for cybersecurity now that every car is connected to the internet. These are real high-value entry points into this new gold rush. So as we wrap this up, it really all boils down to one simple but incredibly important question. A decade from now, what business are you actually in? Will you be selling a physical product that gets sold once, or will you be selling an ongoing service? The entire automotive world is splitting into these two futures, and the choices you start making today will decide which one you belong to.